Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head up towards Stockholm for this review once again, the capital city, and we're going to return to a brewery that you've seen me review a good number of things from before, and this is a style of beer that I've been getting really into over the last little while once again. So for this review we are going to return to Stockholm Brewing Company for the 10th or so time if I'm remembering rightly, and today we're having a taste of the 2020 Pilsner. So this one comes in at 5.9% ABV, so a little bit of a stronger Pilsner to be honest with you, and from what I gather this one is supposed to be a really big American hopped Pilsner actually, so I'm really curious to see what this beer has in store for us, and hopefully it's another good one. The last Pilsner beer that I had from these guys was the Italo Pils, which was really quite interesting, and that one was a tribute to the Tipo Pils from Birrificio Italiano. The Italian Pilsners, of course, are a little bit more hoppy as well. So yeah, and this one might be even hoppier than that last one we had from them actually. But yeah, this beer was released as part of the Lokal Småskaligt assortment in Systembolaget for October of 2020, and I honestly can't remember how much I paid for this one. I think it was maybe around 40 Swedish kronor, so yeah, roughly about €4, £3.50-ish, something like that, about $4, maybe $4.50 for the can, because the dollar's dropped a wee bit of course. But yeah, this one should make for a very interesting beer. As I've told you on the channel, I've been going through a little bit of a lager phase recently, so this is just one that kind of caught my eye, because these guys, one of the styles that they specialise in of course are the Pilsners and the lager beers actually. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Stockholm Brewing Company before, and you will no doubt see more from these guys in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you, and that's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Stockholm Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So Stockholm Brewing Company, as I've told you already, are based in Stockholm, and it's pretty obvious from the name, but the company was founded back in 2012 by Niklas Jakobsson, Thomas Hallgren and Niklas Lenkel. So these guys were also the first craft brewery in Sweden to open up a tasting bar at their brewery. So from what these guys wanted to do, they were the ones who really kind of almost pushed the government, if you like, to change the laws on that, and a lot of other breweries have since followed suit with that. But they continued to expand over the next few years and build up their clientele. But by 2016 they were producing around 150,000 litres of beer, and the brewery were originally based in Sudar in Stockholm, but more recently they moved in 2018 to a new place in an old brick house at Frihamn, out to the east of the city, the Free Port if you want to translate that into English, or Free Harbour I guess you could say. And they also had a restaurant there as well actually. But they also had a collaboration farm outside of Stockholm which was called the Karshamra Trädgård, and a chunk of the things that they were using as ingredients in the restaurant were grown there, but unfortunately it went bust. But they have apparently been trying to reopen it for lunch quite recently. Whether that's been affected by the whole COVID-19 situation, I'm not sure, but I guess Sweden hasn't had the lockdown and stuff, so fingers crossed they can get that up and running. But the current brewer at the brewery is Michael Alin Vigart, who is assisted by Albin and Max, and they also have Sweden's first commercial coolship as well, so there's many more sour beers are going to come out of this brewery over the next little while. But they invested in 2 big fodders in 2019. And in 2020 they invested in a 2,000 litre brew kit, which took up their capacity considerably to around 300,000 litres of beer per year. They were originally associated as well with the company Wine Trade, which was run by Ollie Bartlett, but he is now the managing the brewery and the company, and really kind of steering the ship as he puts it. But as of October 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 170 different kinds of beer, and yeah, it looks like they're just going to keep going and producing more and more things actually. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you. about Stockholm Brewing Company for the moment. It's always nice to return to these guys. Ollie, who I mentioned a minute ago, he's always given me new bits and bobs of information after every video that I make. There's always developments at this company to put into the notes, but he's very enthusiastic and he's really keen for me to go and visit them the next time I make it up to Stockholm. So I'm pretty sure that you will see Stockholm Brewing Company on one of the kind of Meet the Brewery segments, and it'll probably be Ollie and I guess either Michelle or one of the other owners and things like that you'll see on the video too. But yeah, it will be quite cool to feature these guys on the channel and see how we go from there. It'll be nice to meet Ollie after a while because he has communicated with me quite a lot over the years actually. So yeah, big shout out to Ollie for that. Him giving me all the information on the company has been really great as well. It's been really helped me kind of keep the notes on the brewery up to date and things. But yeah, I think the next time, I think when I actually do meet him, I need to sit down and rewrite the notes for the brewery for the upcoming videos and things like that, just to make sure they are all accurate, because there's so much stuff going on at this brewery. But yeah, as I say, that's all I can tell you about Stockholm Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. I'm very, very curious about this one. So as you can see, the artwork on this is actually quite a bit different compared to the other ones we've had from Stockholm Brewing Company before, and this is the first lager I've had in a 440ml can, come to think of it as well. So yeah, that is pretty awesome, I have to say. But yeah, I do like the artwork on this one. It's 5.9% ABV, and like I say, I think I paid about 40 Swedish kronor for this. I could have looked that up before I did the video actually, but you know, just went straight out my head. But yeah, it should be a really nice beer, this one. So without further ado, let's get it out and into the glass. I'm very curious about this because I did enjoy the Italo Pils from these guys, but the thing that I noticed with it, it had organic grains in it, and I always find they give you a kind of almost chalky type mouthfeel to beers, but I noticed this one doesn't have the organic symbol on it actually, so I'm curious to see how this one turns out in that regard. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. Actually, I'm really curious about this. I've had a lot of really good Pilsners recently. Fin Pilsner from Fin Pilsner and the Skånsk Lager from Huli Brewery down here in Skåne. The Mullens Gold from Rocket Brewing Company, also in Malmö. Who else have I had nice lager beers from recently? There's lots of different Pilsners that you can get from OO Brewing. Have I had any others from the Stockholm area? I have had I really had a very nice Vienna lager from Fjärilmarnas Brewery. But yeah, I can't think of other Pilsners that come to mind. I had a good one recently again from Skåne, Raj or Rai Brewery. They had Lager Than Life. But yeah, there's a lot of really good lager beers coming out at the moment actually. So yeah, I've noticed that more and more breweries are putting them out there, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of ideal for me. I've just been going through a bit of a lager phase. I'm not sure what came first, me wanting lagers and them becoming more available, or you know, there being more lagers, so me wanting to drink all of these. So yeah, not sure about how that came about, but I'm not complaining. I do enjoy a nice Pilsner and a nice lager beer, of course. I got into beer on the German styles. But yeah, this one, as you can see, this is poured a lovely kind of bright golden straw yellow colour. You can see there's about a quarter to a third finger of a frothy white head. That's going to very quickly fade away to be a very thin foamy layer. There is a nice degree of haze to this one. Is that because the glass is sweating? To some extent, yeah, there is a little bit of haze to this one, as you can see, but yeah, it is actually pretty clear at the same time. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there, but you know, overall, it does look pretty damn nice actually. It looks like a very, very nice beer, I have to say. So, yeah, looks pretty damn good. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and see how we got on. There's nothing overly surprising about this beer when you consider that it is a Pilsner, so let's go for it and take a look at the aroma then. Ooh, yeah. This one, yeah, you can smell this one has the same kind of yeasty thing that the Italo Pils had. And it's almost a little bit like a kind of, you know, it's got quite a vegetally, kind of herbally sort of thing to it from the yeast. And I don't know if it, I'd be curious to know exactly what yeast it is they're using for this, because I noticed that in Italo Pils as well as some of their other beers. So maybe they're doing their own kind of house yeasts, and it really has this thing. It's almost a little bit farmhousey. It really is. It's a little bit vegetal. It's a little bit herbal. It's a little bit woody. It really has a little bit of that kind of farmhousey vibe to it. This one in the aroma actually, which is quite interesting. So yeah, you'll notice that straight away with this beer. A little bit vegetal, a little bit herbal, and a little bit kind of woody as well. Yeah. So yeah, if you're comparing this to a German Pilsner, that's not something you would normally expect, I have to say. But otherwise, apart from the yeasty notes in this one, it does come across as really kind of authentic, to be honest. So underneath that, you do get a wee bit of that kind of crisp Pilsner malt quality there. As I've told you on the channel before, Pilsner malt is really annoying to try and describe for you in terms of aroma and flavour, because it's like you just smell a crispness, and it's like you just taste a kind of aromatic, astringent, I don't know if astringent's the right word, like a real crispness to it. It just kind of almost jumps off the tongue, if you like. But you can smell these kind of Pilsnery malts coming out of the aroma there. There is a little bit of a kind of white bready note in this one. I'm sure it said, is there wheat malt in this? I'm sure it said in the label. No, it doesn't actually, yeah. And I just noticed there, it does say ekologisk. So yeah, this one, it might be that kind of almost note that I was thinking with the yeast. It might be the organic grains again. That are giving you that little herbally, vegetally kind of thing. Yeah, you get a wee bit of a kind of biscuity caramel out of this one, that sort of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. The malt base, to be quite honest with you, comes across as very kind of wet in this one. Like the sort of caramelly, biscuity notes that come out of the beer come across as very, very wet, rather than being a little bit more oily and, you know, bigger in their sweetness, which is quite interesting. But yeah, nice little bit of a kind of white bready quality kind of underpinning it, if you like. But yeah, I certainly like how this one goes together on the malty side of things. The hops are quite interesting as well, because I think generally speaking I would describe this beer as almost smelling very, very wet. And I mean, yeah, it's a liquid, but you know, the green side of the hops for me come across as just really wet and almost leafy. So yeah, in the back of the nose I think there is a wee bit of an earthiness there. You do get some nice big kind of floral notes out of this one, but yeah, at the same time it really comes across as quite leafy rather than being sort of spicy and things like that. There is a bit of aromaticity in there, and there is a bit of a lighter grassiness as well. But yeah, I really like how this one goes together. In fairness, the aroma of this beer on the green side of things, it's very fresh, it's very kind of refreshing and leafy actually. So yeah, not quite as kind of, I thought this was going to be a really big bitter and kind of spicy sort of thing on the aroma, but it really is more kind of wet and leafy, if that makes sense. On the fruity side of things then, it is, again, it's kind of what you'd expect. There's a bit of a perry ester in there, there's a wee bit of a kind of appley sort of thing too. Is there a wee bit of lime maybe? No, it is more just kind of appley and peary, and a little bit of that kind of citrusy, grassy kind of thing that comes out of this one. So yeah, yeah. I mean, this to me, as I say, it really strikes me as a very wet, kind of leafy type Pilsner beer. This one, yeah. The yeasty notes that you get out of this one are the organic grains. I've not figured out exactly which one it is, but it really gives you that kind of almost farmhousey, vegetally, herbally kind of thing. So that's interesting. That's not so authentic for a Pilsner, in my opinion. But yeah, we'll see how it comes across in the flavour actually. But yeah, otherwise quite a wet, leafy smelling Pilsner, this one. So yeah, it'll be interesting this, because yeah, normally you do expect your Pilsners to be a bit kind of almost crisp and dry in a sense like that. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the 2020 Pilsner. A Pilsner beer coming in at 5.9% ABV from Stockholm Brewing Company. You know where it's from. Slange, Skål. That's really nice actually. That is nice. That's better than the Italo Pils in my opinion. The Italo Pils was a nice enough beer, but this one is far more authentic than that in my mind. The Italo Pils, yeah, normally, as I say, you would expect an Italian Pils to be a little bit more kind of hoppy and things. This one, to me, is a little bit more what a Pilsner should be. And I have to say, I was a bit worried about this from the aroma, there was something, just the yeasty notes and stuff, and the sort of grainy notes that I was getting out of this. I was a bit bothered about that. I was like, what's going to go on here? But the flavour of this one does it does work. It actually gives you kind of what you would expect from a Pilsner beer. So thumbs up to Stockholm Brewing for this one. They've pulled this off quite nicely, I have to say. Yeah, this is what you would want from a Pilsner beer, this one. I really like this. I would say to them, if they are going to do a regular lager beer, a regular Pilsner, go for this one. I think for me, it's just a lot stronger. It's just a lot more nicely done than the Italo Pils was, in my opinion. I would go for this. But yeah, I would say it's one of the things. It does have a little bit of the kind of Stockholm Brewing Company signature, if you like. I found that these beers, they're quite wet. They've got this really usually kind of wet but almost very slightly oily mouthfeel to them, and you get that out of this beer straight away. Actually, you can really pick that out of this one straight away. So it does have that signature Stockholm Brewing Company kind of thing to it, and that's what I like about it. I like it when you go between brewers and you can really pick up little traits, if you like, and I've always found these beers to be a little bit wet but also slightly oily at the same time. So let's try and break down the flavour of this one then and see how we go. So yeah, where to begin with this one? Straight away with this beer, you can feel a little bit of that kind of bready malt just blanketing the middle of your palate there, and it just forms a nice kind of layer that. But yeah, there is a wee bit of a kind of smoother kind of note sitting on top of this one. So if you go towards the back third of your palate, you can feel a little bit more of a kind of bready smoothness there. You can get some of the Pilsner malts, the more kind of astringenty, almost bitey Pilsner malts there. You can get that towards the back of the palate. You do get a few of those kind of yeasty characteristics coming out in the back of the palate there as well. A little bit of that. There is a wee bit of that kind of woodiness and sort of grainy, spicy note coming out of the beer, and I do suspect that is the yeast to a degree, but I think it is also the malts, and that's something I've never figured out. Going from the way the malts taste in this one, I think it is more likely to be the yeast that's giving you those herbally, kind of vegetally things, because the grains in this one, the malty side of the beer, comes across as a lot more refined, I think, than the Italo Pils did. But yeah, the smoothness you get out of this one is really nice. As I say, I would describe this as a slightly more oily and smooth Pilsner in a lot of ways. But yeah, the back third of your palate, as I say, bready base, a little bit of a more grainy character towards the back, a wee bit of a woody note there, and you've also got just a wee touch of a kind of another lighter grainy note to it as well. So yeah, as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, you can feel the sort of thickness of the malty side of the beer just goes down a little bit. You get that kind of white bready base. You get a little bit of the kind of malty side of the beer, a nice little bit of a sweet caramel, a little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuit sort of thing in there, and yeah, you do get that nice kind of sweetness to it. I wouldn't describe the sweetness as being overly pungent, if you like, or as overly apparent. It's almost just more like a subtlety, to be honest. Yeah. It comes in, this beer I think is actually quite sweet as soon as you take it in, to be honest with you. You do get a nice little bit of that, you do get a wee bit of that, you get that kind of grainy breadiness there, and I think the graininess of this beer builds the further that you go into the aftertaste. You do get a wee bit of that kind of grainy, bready sort of thing further on, but on top of that, in the middle of the palate, sweet caramel in the very centre of the tongue, and as you move further out from the centre, you do get a little bit more of a kind of just biscuity, oily biscuity sweetness coming out of this one. So I like how that, I do like how that goes together. So the malty side of the beer, I think, is quite it is kind of quite nice, to be honest with you. So yeah, this one, the malty side of it, does get a thumbs up from me. I think it just comes across as a lot more kind of refined actually than the Italo Pils did. And the Italo Pils was a fairly nice beer, but I think that it's just been taken to the next level with this, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, this is kind of what I would expect, and I'm glad that it turned out as it did, because I was a bit worried. I have to say, I was a bit worried about the aroma from this one with all those kind of herbally, vegetally kind of things. So yeah, it has turned out to be quite a nice beer, this. On the hoppy side of things, then, back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of a kind of earthy quality to the beer, and then as you move further forward you do get more of a kind of floral aromaticity to this one. It does gradually kind of build up. I'd be curious to know what hops in this. Could it just be a Magnum or something like that? But then yeah, round the front curve of the palate it's a little bit lighter and grassy. Then behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters push their way out of the beer. And yeah, I think this one is kind of typical on the fruity side of things of what you would expect of a Pilsner. So yeah, yeah, I really think this is kind of what you would expect. If you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, you will get a wee bit of a kind of lemony pungency to it, but then as you move further forward from that, it gradually develops to be a little bit more kind of peary. There's a wee touch of a lapilli note on this one, and you've got a little bit of a kind of gooseberry-ish quality in there as well. And then on the front edge of the tongue, it's a little bit kind of lemony and grassy as well in my mind. So yeah, you do get a little bit of that kind of pungent quality as well. So yeah, this one is quite quite kind of typical in terms of its fruity qualities, but the fruits come across as a little bit more kind of oily in this one, I think. And in fairness, you can get that in some Pilsners, but I think you're more likely to find that in sort of Helles lagers, to be honest with you. But yeah, the flavour profile of this one is what you would expect from a Pilsner. Generally speaking, in terms of the style, I find this one to be a bit more wet and a bit more oily compared to some of the other ones that I've had, but I think it is quite true to the style. It's quite a wet, oily leaning Pilsner beer, this one. Maybe not quite as crisp as some of the ones that you can find, but I think it does have, in terms of the flavour profile, it does have all the things that you would expect. So on that note, let's go to the mouthfeel then. So for me, this one, how would we say, this one is kind of top end of light bodied. The carbonation is really nice, and the carbonation is very nice and smooth in this one, I would say. The mouthfeel overall, I would describe it as being quite a wet, oily Pilsner, as I've stated, you know, quite clearly in the video. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, what would we say for IBUs? Yeah, this one's not madly high in terms of IBUs. I think it's probably sitting around the 25 or 30 IBU mark, to be honest with you. It does have a nice little bit of a floral quality, a nice little bit of an earthiness in there as well. But I mean, overall, it is quite it's quite nice in that sense. I do think the slight earthiness and stuff that this beer has, and the slight herbal quality, that builds a good bridge between the kind of yeasty notes that it has at the back of the palate. But yeah, I think about 20-ish IBUs for this one. The malt base in this one, it does dry out a little bit and become more grainy the further you go into the aftertaste. It's quite an oily sweetness that you get out of this one, in fairness, and you've got some nice juicy, you've got a nice little bit of a juicy but slightly oily fruity character to this beer as well. But for me overall, this one is it's a really quite nice Pilsner, this one, and it's quite, if you know the kind of style of brewing that Stockholm Brewing Company have, it is quite true to that. It's got that wet, slightly oily mouthfeel to it, and it's almost quite slick. I think slick is probably a good way to describe this beer. So yeah, take a little bit of time and just, you know, enjoy this beer. I think they've done I think they have done quite well with this one, in my mind. So yeah, thumbs up to Stockholm Brewing Company for this one. I think this is, I do think this is a step up from the Italo Pils, in my opinion. But I think this is a nice one. So yeah, if you're interested in sort of light kind of sessionable beers, if you like, that's what I would recommend. That's what I would recommend Stockholm Brewing Company for. It's almost like the ideal brewery to kind of drink something from in the summer, to be honest with you. Even their sour beers that I've had have that slightly wet, oily kind of mouthfeel to them, actually. And I think that for me, that's the thing that would give away, if I was doing a blind tasting, that is the thing that would give away Stockholm Brewing Company, would be the mouthfeel, that slightly wet, slightly oily kind of thing that they have. So yeah, I guess we could say that's their signature. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the 2020 Pilsner, a Pilsner coming in at 5.9% ABV from Stockholm Brewing Company in Freehamn, out to the east of the main central part of the city. But yeah, awesome to review this one for you guys, and hope that you enjoyed it. So anyway, as always with my reviews, thank you for watching. Please let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Stockholm Brewing Company as well. We will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the fairly near future. I'm curious to see, there were a few beers that Ollie recommended to me, so I'll need to try and remember to order those and figure out exactly when they're being released. But yeah, you will see this brewery feature on the channel at some point again in the fairly near future, no doubt. But yeah, thank you again for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Stockholm Brewing, and we will return to these guys fairly soon. This one was the 2020 Pilsner, coming in at 5.9% ABV. From Stockholm Brewing in Freeham, out to the east of the main central part of Stockholm. It's Langet, Skål. Make sure you check out this brewery, and do check out this beer. Cheers.